me ask the question, like, to imply that someone is shopping above their means, like, who the f gets to determine what another adult's means are? That's what I don't get. Hey guys, I realize it's been a minute. I don't know if you're gonna be able to tell this from this exact layout, but I moved. I was in my last apartment for about 5 years, and yeah, I finally moved to a new place, and that is part of the reason why you guys haven't seen me for a couple of months now, I guess. It's kind of been a while since I have been on camera, so I'm a little rusty, apologies. But I have been following along with the discourse here in the luxury community, and I have thoughts. So in my absence, there have been a couple of like larger YouTubers who have done like really big purges in their collections, and there seems to be a lot of discussion about this. So this video isn't really directed or like about any one creator in particular, because for me as a person who worked in the industry for as long as I did, there is, if I'm being honest, nothing really remarkable about a handful of women purging their collections over the course of like a couple of years. Now, I do have separate thoughts about the state of the luxury community as a whole, and I think that will be a separate video. I don't know if you'll be seeing this one or that one first. But I did want to get started with a video really detailing like how normal, how commonplace it is for people to move on from luxury. This is something that I dealt with as a professional in the industry, and it's part of the reason why there is an industry to begin with. So today we're going to be talking about specific reasons why people like purge off their collections and, you know, just stop purveying in luxury, because, you know, it happens. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any thoughts about the state of the luxury community here on social media these days, then I definitely want to hear them. Please leave your comments down below. But before you do, I'm not gonna lie, I really did not enjoy seeing, you know, members of the community. And when I'm talking about members of the community, I'm talking about like the audience speculating on, you know, the financial well-being of some of these people, implying that like they were living above their means, or like they've gone broke or whatever. As detailed in this video today, there are so many reasons why people are selling things off, and I think it's very important to remind people that you don't really have a true picture of any one person's life, especially through social media. We don't know much anything about these people other than what they share, and to be frank, like, it's none of your fucking business. I find it really gross and really mean-spirited. What if they have gone broke? Then what? Like, that happens to people. It is almost inevitable that your financial situation will change at some point in your life. That is almost a certainty. And now, obviously, yes, for the entire lifespan of my channel, I recommend shopping within a good and responsible moderation that works for you and your budget. But ultimately, we all have priorities in our lives, and we are all responsible for making decisions for ourselves. But if someone is out here going into like crazy credit card debt and buying, you know, luxury goods for what I would call the wrong reason, while I truly discourage that, that is their choice as a grown adult, and that is not for anyone else to like get in the mix of, you know what I mean? So those comments really did not sit right with me. The reason I'm making this video is just to stress how common it is for people to cycle out of this industry, and like there is really no need for the judgment and the nastiness. So yeah, we can absolutely have a, you know, lively discussion about this or any subject, but keep it respectful and keep it classy. I'm going to be detailing like specific experience and specific circumstances that I've encountered in, you know, my time within the industry. But one thing I cannot stress enough is that ultimately it was none of my business why they were selling or purging their things. It was not a part of my job to inquire like what was going on in their lives. Now, sometimes they would volunteer this information. That's what I'm going to be sharing now with you. I just don't really find it like useful, like a good use of brain cells to try and like speculate into people's like ulterior reasoning like behind why they're, you know, making certain changes and moves in their lives. So I mean, I just do caution everyone away from like speculating too much. I have made hundreds of videos now over the last, what is it, 8 years that I've been on YouTube? That's kind of crazy. You know, I do a lot of videos about buying and selling of bags. Today we're not talking about like how to sell like 1 bag or even 5 bags. Like in my experience working at least here in Miami in the luxury resale industry, pretty much basically every quarter, we would get a new client who was completely purging everything out of their wardrobe, giving us dozens or sometimes like over 100 bags at a time. And just like people migrate in and are buying their first bag, there are always people circulating through and migrating right back out. Now, the first most obvious reason probably why someone would, you know, sell off a whole large portion of their wardrobe and of their collection is because they need the money. And now, of course, you know, there are those examples of, you know, someone maybe overspent over a period of their lives and have to recoup it back, or they're broke, etc., etc. And I don't want to say like that's not a legitimate reason, but there are absolutely like, I think, kind of mundane reasons why people, even if they're like not in like some transitional phase in their life, sell off a large majority of their bags. So a couple of examples that I can give just from my own experience in the industry. One of them is for renovation. I don't know, if you have like maybe like 10 or 12 Chanel bags, the funds that you get from selling that many bags, like it could pay for a new kitchen. This one, especially common here in the US, unforeseen medical expenses. Unfortunately, in this country, like we don't really have much of a safety net in regards to our healthcare. So, you know, if you or someone you love, or God forbid, like your child or someone gets sick and needs some type of like some type of medical treatments, like a lot of the time, we're going to talk about priorities changing later on in the video, but your priority should always be the health of yourself and your loved ones, and you know, luxury should always fall beneath that. And on a lighter note, in regards to medical expenses, I have absolutely come in contact with people who sell off their collections to get cosmetic work done. They get nose jobs, they get their boobs done, they get liposuction, injections of sorts, but in a place here in Miami where everyone's like, you know, naked and tan and beautiful. Don't think like people aren't selling their bags to pay for a new butt. That is absolutely happening here. Another one that's super common is to start a business. These bags sitting in your closet, especially if you're not using them, collecting dust could, you know, actually go towards something that you're trying to build for yourself or for your family. A lot of the time, some of the checks that I've seen have been for like $10,000. I've seen checks as high as $40,000 or so going to consigners. And like, what would like an extra $40,000 be able to do for you? Some people use that to like open a restaurant or a nail salon or whatever. Probably a lot more is going to go into that. But if someone decides that these bags sitting in their closet are no longer serving them and they would rather open up a restaurant or whatever. Another one is paying for weddings for either themselves or for like maybe a child or something like that. Very common, very mundane. And some of these people like have these, you know, gorgeous, beautiful closets, and you know, that's, again, I just can't stress enough how this is just money sitting on the shelf, and for certain people in certain cases. So this is actually one that I like a lot. Some parents, I guess moms, would give their bags to their college-bound child for like their spending money or whatever. And bonus points, I really liked when I would see this, is that they would give the items or the bags to the kid, and the kid would have to like manage the, you know, whole transaction. Like basically you go take the stuff, you go sell it, and keep what you kill. That's really cool. I feel like that's something positive that maybe like I might consider doing in the future. So another one that I saw happen a couple of times was that the money would get donated to a charity of some sort. This one woman in particular that I can think of was sending, I think, like pallets of food or or supplies to Venezuela a couple of years ago. That's absolutely something positive that can come out of the selling of designer handbags. And yeah, one time I sold a Louis Vuitton briefcase, and that went towards somebody getting bailed out of jail. Now, and just to restate how common this is, like how often and how many other creators have you even seen document their journeys of selling off one brand to buy another? Now, that happens at many levels. I think the one that we're most used to seeing is someone selling off all of their Chanel to level up to Hermes. It is so incredibly rare that someone starts their Hermes journey not having been partaking in luxury in some way beforehand. I don't know if I've ever heard of that. It takes a lot of money in that pre-spend, and that usually comes, at least partially, from selling off of whatever bags you already have in your closet. Like, part of me is like surprised that there's been so much uproar, because we've been watching people document this process, basically like telling us out loud that they're doing it for that specific purpose for the 10 years that I've been in the industry. So, I mean, maybe we don't need to be freaking out about this. Now, of course, very obvious reason is, you know, losing interest. And I think that is kind of what appears to be happening with certain creators. But this is a hobby, an expensive one at that. It is shocking to me when people say that they have been engaging or partaking in one hobby for all of their adult lives. Like, I'll tell you right now that if this channel would have started in 2011 instead of in 2016, I think is when I started, like, it would have been about Game of Thrones. I wasn't always into designer bags. There was a point in my life where I didn't care about bags at all, and, you know, that changed. I could change right out of it at any point, and you could too. A couple of specific things that I've heard people mention is that they are just overwhelmed by the clutter. Even outside of the amount of money spent, like think about how much space, like physical space, that takes up in your home, for example, to have hundreds of Louis Vuitton bags that are, you know, maybe, or Birkins even, that are like this big. Like, if you have 100 of them, like that's this entire wall. It ceases to be important to you at that level. For it to take up that much physical space can get really overwhelming for people. I had one experience of a client who, away from the materialism and consumerism and all of that, and went on like a yoga, wellness, health journey, and she had so many great, beautiful bags and so many amazing shoes. But whatever new lifestyle she was following, like, she stopped wearing shoes entirely. Literally walking around barefoot. I think it had something to do with like grounding yourself to the earth. Like, I vaguely heard about this, but those people, like, when they, you know, latch on to like these new lifestyles, like, there was something that preceded it, and in this case in particular, she was a luxury lover, and that changed. I think the biggest one obviously is like moving into or out of like a mom bag. A couple of the creators have mentioned that they have children, and now in reassessing your priorities, like, motherhood seems like the thing that just turns your entire brain around. That's kind of been my understanding of it. And you know, collecting luxury and especially with how much these things cost, you end up finding other things that are more important to you, especially considering too, like, how much children seem to cost. How many sets of braces can you get for a couple of Chanel bags from 10 years ago? Now, I'm hyper aware of this one because I just moved, but downsizing into a new home, especially a home that you've been in for a number of years, like, it is almost unjustifiable for the amount of space that my bags take up. But so long as they are important to me, so long as they are a priority, like, that's something that I make space for. These priorities are just not going to be at the same level for people at every point in their lives. And the fact is that they are physical, tangible things that take up space. And then one very surprising one that we would get a lot here in Miami is moving abroad. Yeah, when you walk around to a lot of the places where these bags are made, you don't really see a ton of people carrying designer bags. I don't know if that's like a safety thing necessarily. The styles and tastes and just the lifestyle may be different. Here in the US, we are very car centric. You may end up carrying like bigger and more like easy to carry bags than you might if you are just, you know, plopping all your things in the, what is it called? My God, see, that just goes to show you how little time I spend in my car. The passenger seat. Goodness. Yeah, like you don't really see as much designer stuff, and crucially, like I just said, it takes up a lot of space. Here in this country, people, not necessarily in the cities, but like when you get like out to the suburbs and like middle America, like they're used to having a lot more like square footage and living space than maybe we are in larger cities, and certainly more so than in places like Europe. That is just one that I came across a lot. Let me know if any of you live abroad or from there, what your experience of designer stuff is there. Finally, and I say this one for last because it's I would say the most common and the most monumental, and that is divorce. I just want to be clear about something. I am not alluding to any particular people. Now, once again, in my capacity in the industry, it was pretty much we could count on, okay, I don't want to say that to make light of it, it just was a yearly occurrence. Every spring around like March, April time, someone would get divorced or begin the proceedings to get divorced, and just walk in with like bags and bags and bins and cars full of their designer handbags purchased over the years. Now, I do want to separate this one from just the needing money category that we talked about earlier, because there are many reasons wrapped up in this one subject. Now, obviously, there's the needing of the money. We just talked about that. First of all, divorce a lot of the time will require moving into a new living space. Is definitely a financial change. There are legal fees, but a lot of the time there is some sentimental value attached to it. They may, you know, trigger certain memories, or they may have been bought by the ex-partner. And again, because I work as an authenticator, I have to take this time to remind you that a lot of the time when these divorces would happen and they would come to sell off the items gifted by the ex-partner, more often than I enjoy sharing with you guys, like the items were counterfeit and the woman didn't know. So get your gifts authenticated. You receive something beautiful and lavish from someone you love. If you were not there for the purchase of the item, have it inspected, because the last thing you want in your moment when maybe you need money all of a sudden and you're maybe counting on that, because that happens a lot of the time, you don't want to be surprised. Now, if you remember, I was gifted a fake thing, which is why I tell you that it is a lot more common than you think. And of course, with ending a relationship, like your lifestyle is undoubtedly changing. Maybe you're going to a whole lot of parties. Maybe you didn't go to a whole lot of parties, now all of a sudden you are. Friend groups change, your couple friends like choose a side, that happens. So all of a sudden, like, you're not hanging out with the same people, and absolutely does trickle down into your wardrobe, your collection, and the things that you use in your daily life. And of course, my favorite reason of all is no reason that I knew about, because it's none of my fucking business. So people cycling in and out of this industry or having this as a hobby is literally the reason why this market exists in such a large scale. There would not be like smaller businesses opening up just to sell one item here and there piecemeal until the end of time. It is almost impossible to like have a consistent inventory as a business unless you do get a large influx like periodically over the course of a year. So I don't think this is cause for alarm. We've detailed how many reasons why people get out of this, and ultimately the theme you see is that whatever in their life that's happening is more important to them at that moment than the luxury and designer handbag. That has always consistently been true. The only difference I think now is that this is evident in a lot of things, but our generation of women, we're really kind of the first to be documenting and sharing our lives at this scale. A lot of us that started this like maybe 8 years ago, like me. God help you if you're the same person at 25 that you are at 33. The only difference is that these women that are now cycling out of it, they're doing it in front of the peanut gallery. And between them, they probably have like, I don't know, millions of followers or whatever. And that's just not something that existed in the generations of women prior to this. The women that I was working with weren't posting their lives all over social media. In my opinion, I think this is just like a casualty of sunlight. Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that it's been a while since you've seen my face. I've had some stuff going on in the behind the scenes. Yeah, I just really have been reflecting on like my time here on YouTube, and I've been trying to keep a level head about the advice that I give here about this industry, because I worked on the ground and I see what happens when people feed too much into the hype cycle. And I just cannot stress enough how unremarkable it is that a handful of women have decided to stop spending thousands of dollars on purses. Ultimately, like, as always, one of my mantras that I've had on this channel, other than handbags are not reliable financial investments, has been to buy what you like and what you will use, sell it when those two things cease to be true. That's it. No graphs, no trend cycle. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm very glad to be back. So if you have any, I would love to hear your thoughts about what's been going on here in the luxury communities in my absence. And I will see you guys in my next one.